Hello and welcome to the first summer edition of Drive Home Reviews 2019, coming from you from gorgeous Eagle River, Alaska. I apologize for the very unflattering angle. It's the only way I can get the camera shooting at me in this car. But yes, no idea when this episode's going to be uploaded. So some of you, this could be a review long after anyone has stopped caring, but I feel like I want to get my thoughts out and talk about it because I've talked a lot about this series, especially recently. I've done 2 editorials kind of talking about my thoughts on the X-Men franchise as it stands and certain ideas I would have for its future and whatnot. So I feel like I do need to get my opinion out there just because I'm like that. So here it is. In the year of endings, as Facebook and other social media outlets have constantly kind of reminded us, 2019 being the year where we're ending, the Avengers run, we just ended Game of Thrones, nobody's complained about that. And the one that's kind of flown under the radar has been the X-Men. That this is their final outing as part of the Fox franchise. When we next see them, whenever that is, they will be under the Marvel umbrella. So no doubt going to get a complete breakdown, overhaul, and reboot, which we should, I believe. But, now the question is, this is it. This is the end of a almost 20-year-long franchise. So the question we gotta ask is, how is it? And the answer is, it's okay. I wish I could say more. I really wish I could say more, but I have a lot to say. But it's just kind of okay, which for the X-Men films, that's kind of high praise because they have been steadily just dropping in quality for a very long time. And it's, sometimes all you can say is that, well, it ain't bad. So there's a lot I want to talk about. So let's talk about kind of why this film doesn't quite work. And it doesn't quite work because it has a lot of problems that the X-Men franchise has had almost since day one and has just kind of never addressed or never looked at as well as it could. So the first problem is that this film really wants to be a endgame level event. It really wants us to feel like this is a big ending. It's carrying a lot of baggage from the franchise. It's really trying to remake X-Men 3: The Last Stand. But the problem is, and why it doesn't achieve something like, say, what Endgame achieved, is because Endgame had characters that we had grown to love, we had grown to know, and who had grown substantially from the first time we saw them to the last time. And Dark Phoenix doesn't have that. We met a lot of these new characters or new characterizations of, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Nightcrawler, Storm. We met all of these new characters 1 movie ago. And quite frankly, the movie we met them in was so bad, most people have forgotten about it. I saw it in the theater. I did a review of it. I don't remember it. I remember they were in it, but aside from that, I don't remember much about them. So you have these characters that are trying to have this big, life-changing, life-altering, big blowout ending, and we know absolutely nothing about them. There's a moment where Nightcrawler, at the towards the climax and the big climactic battle, it's a big deal that some soldier he didn't know dies, and he goes crazy and just starts killing all the bad guys. Nightcrawler does. And that's supposed to be a big, the music would have us believe it's this big epic thing. It's this big moment for him. We have no idea who this guy is. The only way you know who this character is if you have knowledge of Nightcrawler from the comics or from the previous films like X2. And even there wasn't much, but there was more than there was here. We've never gotten anything about this Nightcrawler that anyone can remember, so this moment falls completely flat. Meanwhile, the characters we do know, who we have been invested in, probably going back to X-Men First Class, they haven't fucking moved. They have not moved. We've got James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender. Now, admittingly, this is the only film I can stand the two of these guys in. I haven't been able to stand them in anything else they've been in lately. But you have these two just going through the motions. They try to do this thing where they flip-flop them, and in this one, Magneto is the more benevolent character, and Charles is kind of gone a little dark. They try that. It doesn't work because they wimp out on it right away. Okay? After Jean is infected with the Phoenix and she's going all crazy and she kills Mystique. Oh, spoiler alert, she kills Mystique. I don't care. They pretty much spoil it in the trailers, so I don't think I'm spoiling anything. So she goes to see Magneto, who's set up kind of a mutant colony somewhere. I think it's supposed to be Genosha. They never say it, but and she asked Eric, how did you stop killing? And he gives her this speech about, I'd sought revenge for so long, and I sought revenge in everybody, but no matter how many people I put in the ground, the revenge, it didn't help, it didn't work, blah, 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 blah. And so this big speech, and then he finds out she killed Mystique, and now now I'm going to kill you for revenge. And this would have been a neat thing to play out, but they immediately piss it away. Immediately. Nicholas Hoult and Jennifer Lawrence are. Jennifer Lawrence is sleepwalking. And, in a way, I don't blame her. I really get the feeling that this was I'm going to do this film out of either they paid her a shit ton of money, which is probably what happened, or she did it out of loyalty because First Class was kind of her big break, because it came out right before the Hunger Games when she really hit big. So she probably said, I'll do this out of loyalty to y'all for helping me. But she is sleepwalking through it. It is so just stare at the camera, deliver a line, get paycheck. Nicholas Hoult, and this is nothing against him, because he is a very good actor, and I saw him in that Tolkien movie, and I really liked him in that. So I do think he's a good actor, and on paper he is a good beast, but he has never felt right in this part. I don't know why it never fit for me. It just never did. And he's the same. He's marking time. I think he's trying, I really do, but I don't know, just the character doesn't fit him for whatever reason, at least to me. On that, my future wife, Jessica Chastain, one of my favorite working actors, is in this movie. And you know me, I love me Jessica Chastain, and I will, it's hard for me to say anything bad about her. She's not bad in this. So Jessica Chastain plays our villain, who is after the Phoenix power for her own reasons. And Jessica Chastain does a decent job because she's Jessica Chastain and she's awesome. But you notice I call her the villain, and that's not because, like normal, I don't remember the character's name or anything. It's because they don't give the character a name. The character has no name, no personality, no backstory really. We're told a backstory, but we don't see it. We don't see how this character is anything but the foil, And she get kudos to how good of an actor Jessica Chastain is, that she still manages to just own the screen every time she's on it. But the character is flat. There's nothing there for her to play. She is pulling something, a minuscule amount, out of nothing, which is better than most actors would do. But I'm sorry, honey. I love you, but I must call him as I see him. So, and that's the thing. That's kind of a good news, bad news with this film. Good news is we have new antagonists. It's not just another group of mutants or evil humans. So they have finally done something different. And I'm very happy about that. The bad news is, again, they are nameless, they are faceless, they have no presence. So they're not a threat, really. You know? So what are you going to do with that? You know, you can't build... So I don't know why we necessarily needed other villains, because the Dark Phoenix is supposed to be the villain. Just leave it there. However, that's a good segue to kind of talk about some things that do work, because this film is not awful. I know I've been railing on it a lot for the last, 12 minutes, but it's not bad. There are some good things in it, because that's how the X-Men films work. There's usually some really good things in it. And there are some really good things in it. And I think the best thing in it, I think the thing that does, the element that deserves the most praise and the most thanks for helping this film work as well as it does, is Sophie Turner as Jean Grey. As I said before, one of the problems is you have these actors who are pretty much brand new to the roles, trying to make us care about these characters we've never met, or did meet but don't really know much about at this point. And so she has a very hard task. And man, is she doing the heavy lifting for this movie. Holy shit, she is working her ass off playing this character and selling us the emotional struggle and the emotional torment that she is going through. Boy, howdy. Now, I don't know if that's just because that's what Sophie Turner does so well, having had done it for 8 seasons on Game of Thrones. I don't know if it's just a Game of Thrones hangover for me, being so sympathetic towards Sansa Stark for so long, because so many people beat her, abused her, raped her, sold her, and you were just begging for someone to come and help this child, and then she helps herself and becomes a woman on her own because Sansa Stark kicks ass. So I don't know if it's just my leftover emotions from that, but Sophie Turner is just killing it. I'm not going to say it's the best performance of the year. I'm not going to say it's some big, amazing star turn. But I am going to say that this actor really, really works hard and is trying her best. And if I cared about this movie, if I cared about these characters, if I cared about the stakes at all, it's because of her. So she deserves just a huge round of applause. I think she really, really showed her chops. And I'm hoping that in the future, she gets to play characters who aren't emotionally and physically getting the shit kicked out of them so much. It'd be nice to see her as the heroine of a romantic comedy or something like that. I'd like to see her in something, do like Emilia Clarke does, and do a few gooey comedies there to kind of wash the melodrama of Game of Thrones out of you for a little bit. So she is good. The directing is much better. If we've learned nothing else from the X-Men saga, it's that the X-Men saga works a lot better when Bryan Singer isn't directing. I forget who directed this one, but it's much more competently directed. It's much more energetic. The action scenes are much better. Now, I badmouthed the alien bad guys a minute ago, but I gotta praise them here because they helped make some of especially the climactic fight on the train, just so much more entertaining because it was something new. One thing, a criticism I've had, and I know a lot of people have had about the X-Men franchise for so long, is that we've never really had a big blowout battle. in an X-Men movie, where you have all these different characters with all these different abilities doing all these different things and really showing them off. We don't get that a lot. First Class had a decent one, and the rest have been kind of so-so to middling, or just sucky in some cases. But this one, the action is staged really neat. You get to see the characters like Beast, like Nightcrawler, like Magneto do some fun, new, different things with their abilities in a fight. So that's really good. I also got to give a big thumbs up to some of the Easter eggs. The X-Men films are famous for Easter eggs, and there are some cute little Easter eggs in here. Some of them deliberate, they've got to be, and others I'm like, did they know they were doing that? They must have. For instance, at one point, our heroes are captured by the mutant control something. I don't know what the last word is, but the initials are MCU, and all of the soldiers had MCU on their arm. And I don't know if that was intentional. I don't know if that was supposed, and if it was, I don't know if it's supposed to be a rub or trying to take the piss out of the MCU, or if it's admitting defeat. I don't know what that is, but that was cute. We only get one mutant cameo in this, which I think is good. I think they try to keep it focused on the story and not on the background stuff. Dazzler has a decent cameo in this. I don't know. I guess we were begging for a Dazzler cameo. I guess she's a character they really wanted to get in there for some fucking reason. I'm not sure why, but you know, there you go. But she's in there. But the best Easter egg, and I'm wondering how many people catch it. So the new X-Men uniforms, the jackets with the big yellow X on them, are taken from the comics, and they're taken from a very specific run from, I think, the early 2000s, when it was written by a guy named Grant Morrison. Okay, and in one scene, the X-Men are all walking there, and they've got Xavier with them, and Xavier is dressed exactly like Grant Morrison. If you Google, if you don't know who he is or you've never seen him, Google Grant Morrison comic writer, and he fucking looks like James McAvery as Professor X. So that was a neat kind of Easter egg, especially given that that's where the jacket design comes from. So all in all, when all is said and done, this film is watchable. It's okay. And I know that that's kind of better than expected when you're talking about this particular franchise. But, you know, and again, I've badmouthed it a lot. I've said a lot of bad things. I stand by them. But, you know, I don't want it to be thought that I hate the X-Men franchise. I don't. I just think that there have been issues with it from the beginning that have never been addressed. But, and I've said this before, the things that it did well and the groundwork that it laid for things like the MCU, I mean, the things it did well, it did incredibly well. And I just wish that to end a 20-year franchise, they had really hit it out of the park. I was rooting for this film. I really wanted it to win. And in the end, I think it went down swinging, but it just couldn't hit it out of the park. I've said it about Aliens, I've said it about Terminator, I've said it about Predator, and I've said it about this franchise, all owned by Fox. Coincidence? Well, now owned by Disney. But these franchises, and this franchise in particular, ran out of gas a long time ago, and they have just been hooking it up to the defibrillator ever since, trying to squeeze one more summer blockbuster out of it. And in the end, I'm happy that the X-Men franchise was around. I'm thankful for the introduction to Hugh Jackman. I'm glad I got to see Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen as Charles Xavier and as Magneto. It proved that superheroes could translate to the big screen. It proved they could be used as metaphors for modern day issues. So it did a lot, but in the end, final grade for X-Men Dark Phoenix, I gotta go a C. And I'm being generous. My gut says to go C-. But out of respect for the franchise, I'm going to go see. So that's it. That's it for this one. Again, don't know when this episode's going to be uploaded. So for some of you, it could be, months from after this movie has ceased to be relevant. But, anyway. However, yesterday was a big day because my parents and I decided to go see a movie last night. So I've got another review that I'm going to be doing and shooting your way here soon. So until then, as always, from sunny Alaska, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.